Thank you, Mary. Thank you. Thank you, and thank you all for being here, and thank you for your service for higher education for the state of Texas. We all do this as volunteer work, and I will tell you a little bit of history, because I think when you first get on a board, you don't know a lot about the coordinating board, and really you know a lot about the institutions, typically, that you've been appointed to oversee, which is a very big trusted position in our state. But the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board was started by Governor John Connally in 1965. And there are some of you in the room, I know Mr. Giles was on the coordinating board, have served before. And then some folks on the coordinating board become regents, and some regents and then get appointed to the coordinating board. So there's a lot of intertwining between higher education and our state. And the coordinating board, like I said, was started in '65 by Governor Connally. And the mission of that was to coordinate higher education in our state, just like it says, to be able to provide higher education, to make it affordable, accessible, and high quality, and also have lack of duplication, okay? And that's very key, because there's a lot of things that you're going to be coming across as trustees and regents, decisions that you have to be making that are important, yes, for your region and your state, but also you have to look at a statewide perspective in terms of the needs of the state, because we're actually representing taxpayer dollars, right, when you're working on these positions. So there's a lot of things that come under the umbrella of being a regent and being a trustee for a university. In this particular section, we're folks that have been appointed by the governor, and you're trustees of organizations in terms of specific entities of universities. Many of us in this room have been served as well as trustees in private organizations, private boards, and I think the Chancellor Reeser from Texas State Technical School made a good point today, is that you've served on boards, or you have served on boards that are both public and private. This is totally different. This, you have constituencies which are what? The citizens of the state of Texas, the students, the taxpayers, and those are the things that you need to keep in mind as you make decisions. So the coordinating board takes a good view. We're not a regulatory agency. We're not here to oversee what you universities do. That's your job as a university. And I think the Chancellor said that right today in terms of your knowledge and your participation and understanding and your fiduciary responsibilities of being a regent are what you're looking out after. And the coordinating board coordinates all the efforts, you know, as far as all the systems are concerned. We want to make sure that your job is to look at your system. We're not going to go into systems and look in and see what your financial situations are or what you're doing and why you're doing it, but we want to coordinate the effort so all the systems come together. This young lady had a great question about the formula funding, which is important because obviously the funding is important to the university. We only get about 26% funding in higher education by our state legislature these days. It used to be a lot more, many of us in this room know, just 5-10 years ago. So the importance is we have to really look at the overall processes that these universities are doing, and that's your job. So again, thank you for your service. Like I said, we're all volunteers and you're taking time, but it makes a difference for the students and the parents of our state and those that want to seek a higher education. Let me go ahead and get started here. So this morning's talk was, I think, very ampliable. Here we go. Essentials of the board responsibilities. So this is kind of a basic information for you. A lot of things, so you've already served on other boards, whether it's community boards or, like I said, public boards or private boards. But these are basic responsibilities that I think some of the panel this morning went into, which is great. So having an ultimate fiduciary responsibility for your system or institution, I mean, that's your big role, number one. And also, the key thing, probably the most important thing, is when you hire chancellors or when you hire presidents for your institutions. That's probably the biggest thing that you'll probably be remembered for. And so you want to do a very important job. That's probably role number one, besides making sure that your system is efficient and that it's doing things properly and oversight, but also hiring a CEO, a leader, a president. And typically hiring the chancellor, and then some of you will be on certain committees that will hire certain presidents within your systems. We have larger systems that kind of share those responsibilities within regions. So that's the important aspect of reviewing the performance of the president is also very important, as we've heard about this morning. And making decisions about finance. Also, many of you are bankers, many of you are in real estate, bank investment, healthcare. The recommendation this morning about selecting and being interested in committees where your area of expertise is going to be very important. I know we have builders, construction folks, bankers, like I said, healthcare providers. Try to get onto those committees because that's your area of expertise. I think right now on the coordinating board we have a very good board because we have a good mix of people that have those areas of responsibilities within their roles and their professionalism that bring good things to the board. And so that's one thing you definitely want to definitely look at or stress on any board. Oh, am I going the wrong way? There we go. Overseeing the public trust that they hold for you is very important. So you're responsible for the independence of the institution, as well as safeguarding academic freedom. And that's very important because that's in the news these days. You know, you hear about universities and faculty and staff and what's being taught and not being taught. You don't want to get into the weeds about the university and how it operates, but you definitely want to oversee and to make sure that people have their rights in terms of being able to have freedom of speech. Defining the terms of shared governance within their institutions is important, especially those of you that are on boards that have several institutions that report to you as regions. Constituencies, both internal and external, and you're also responsible for defining the educational mission of the institution. And as new members, don't be shy about speaking up and asking for information because you want to be as well informed to make informed decisions. Generally determining academic what the offerings are, and also being accountable for the quality of student learning experience. So we want to definitely listen to the students. So there's no way to do things that are wrong things, but understanding the legal and regulatory environment of the institution operates in compliance. So that's very key. This afternoon we're going to be hearing from the coordinating board, our compliance and our council, general counsel, in a session that I'll do with them a little bit later on after a break, in terms of how compliance and your responsibilities as far as regulatory issues that you have to deal with, and conducting the board's business in exemplary fashion with appropriate transparency and adhering to the highest ethical standards. So it's important for the board president and the president of the board, which is chairman of the Board of Regents in the cases in this particular session, to have clear expectations, a common sense of purpose, shared vision, and you also have mutual agreement upon a plan, a commitment to inclusion by all stakeholders. So it's great for you as an individual when you're learning to make sure and have a good communication with your board chair, because your board chair needs to hear from each of you about your interests and what it is that you want to contribute to a board, and that's important for them to know that. This little slide here I wanted to put because we have, there are very good boards and then there are very high-performing boards. And many of you have been in several boards, understand this concept. So the idea is when your board, just kind of generally how things work in terms of the coordinating board, when your board and your leadership decides to do, and I'll give you an example, something that we're looking at right now on the coordinating board. I chair the Academic Workforce Success Committee. That's the committee that oversees all the new degree programs that come for higher education for the state of Texas. So we have a proposal now for the first podiatry school of medicine in the state of Texas. Most people don't even know we don't have a podiatry school. And that's really important. If you're a healthcare professional, you know podiatry, the eyes and the feet. Diabetics, we have a lot of diabetics in our state, right, in our country. So that's important. So a lot of people were surprised that we don't have a school of podiatry. So there's a program in one of the systems that are proposing that. And I think that's great. So we have 238 approximately members, staff members at the coordinating board. So we're a large agency. What we can do for you, systems, is provide data. We are data-driven at the coordinating board. And what does that mean? That means we're able to provide the governor's office, provide folks that are looking for programs in the state of Texas data to see about the needs. Remember I mentioned about what the mission of the coordinating board is? Provide what the needs and necessities are for our citizens of the state of Texas, whether it's healthcare, whether it's certain areas of education and industrial engineering. There's different types of engineering. And so we are also learning on our board about all these higher education needs. So we work with economic development corporations with different areas about what the needs are, and so we can prepare the next students for those jobs and the things that we need for the future in our state in order for everyone to be able to get a good education, to better themselves, provide a good living for their families, and guess what? Have an economic positive state, economic resources for our families and for our state in the future. So that's what education is all about. That's why your positions are so important, because you set the tone and the agenda for these programs to be able to be successful. So what we do is we oversee those programs, we look at them, and it takes about a year and a half to 2 years to do some of these programs. Not only PhD programs, master's programs, but programs that are so detailed that we have to learn about them, and our staff does all the prep work for the committee and for the board members to understand the needs, the costs. You just heard about spacing, all that information. You have to have a financial plan. And so it's not a good position. Sometimes we're put in positions where we don't want to deny programs. We want everyone to succeed and do well. But there's this 50-mile radius rule that I think you all should be very aware of, that if a program wants to do an engineering program, let's say at a community college in South Texas, I'll just use an example, that's where I'm from, and then there's a university that also has that program, the universities and your systems have a chance to, I don't want to say petition, but kind of to bring up concerns about someone else doing the same program. We don't want duplication because we're dealing with taxpayer dollars. We want to be able to provide the best education. So we don't want an industrial engineering 5-10 miles down the line that another university is doing. We want all of your systems to succeed, okay? And we want everyone to do really well, but we want to be able to provide opportunities that make financial sense for the whole state, okay? And so those are the reasons as your administration and your folks come to you as regents, say, we'd like to do a proposal. We would like to do, there's a new proposal for a pharmacy school in Texas. Okay, we approved, my committee approved, recommended the board, approved the first dental school in the state of Texas in over 50 years, 2 months ago, and that's going to be at Texas Tech Health Science Center in El Paso. 50 years, and a lot of people, podiatry, we've never had one in the state of Texas. So the thing is, we need to look at the needs, and they're going to come to you, meaning your folks and within your administrations, for proposals, and they've got to get your approval first, and they need to do all their financial backgrounds and things, and then it'll go to the coordinating board. And by the way, the coordinating board is not the final say. They're accreditation bodies that have to approve the podiatry program, the medical schools, the dental schools. They still have to go through a final process. Going back to this. So, performing boards and high-performing boards. So what's an example of a performing board? Well, you get the work done and do things right? But a high-performing board example, you decide what works is most important and you do the right things, okay? So you prioritize, okay? What about a performing board that works that's good enough? No, you want to be able to set high realistic expectations. Realistic expectations is the key. Have a strategic plan, okay, but you got to align that plan to specific strategies, okay? So you have to take it one step further. Then you improve incrementally, but you want to focus. If you're a high-performing board, and that's what we all want to have, high-performing boards in our state, you want to focus on substantial improvement. Do you react to challenges, or do you focus on change? Okay, those are things, that specific issues that come up that you need to focus on change and you need to be specific. Providing adequate finances is a performing board, but you want to gain financial strength and productivity, and that would be an example of a high-performing board. Having positive recognition is good, but having a positive reputation would be an example of a high-performing board. Use anecdotes, or you measure what matters. Measuring is the key. And again, at the coordinating board, we have all kinds of data that will be able to give you information and provide each of your administrations data to really go with important decisions that will help you make those decisions more appropriately. Do you attend board meetings? Or are you engaged? A high-performing board member will be engaged in conversations and discussions and lead groups in terms of committee work. Most of the work is done in the committees. So it's important, again, to get involved in something that really interests you. And once you do that, you'll have more input. And you'll be able to explain to your other board members where all the work is done on the committee level to be able to be effective and more productive. Do you defer to the president? Or do you use integral leadership? Productivity, okay, let me go, here we go, sorry. Are you cordial, or do you participate in constructive, informed dialogue? Again, that's very key, and that's kind of the basics of being on any board, okay? Are you open to change, or do you embrace change? Earlier, the speaker said, once a board decision is made, you want to back your CEO, you want to back your chancellor, you want to back your president. There are going to be situations that you all will be in, where there will be some controversial issues. And you will be tugged at from letters and calls from state senators, your best friends, but you've got to do what's best for your institution, and you've got to do what's best for the state of Texas and the students and the families. Okay, so that's, my talk was just more about to give you an understanding about what the coordinating board does and what your roles are and how we're here to help you succeed as a new board member. Ask questions, and like I said, the board gives opportunities to systems and chancellors and regents to visit the board by invitation, but we're here to listen to you because we want to coordinate efforts to meet our 60 by 30 goal, which is help educate our population in the state of Texas to be able to improve our economy in the state. And that's the purpose that we all do this. But I want to thank each and every one of you for your service, for the time that you take away from your family, from your businesses, and all that you do. It makes a difference. And so if we didn't have folks like you that were able to step up and do this public servant work, it would be very difficult for us to move the needle as far as higher education is concerned, not only in our state, but in our nation, because we are looked at in higher education very highly here in the state of Texas from all over the country. So thank you. Any questions or comments? Okay, Mary. Thank y'all. Thank you.